Hi everybody, it's Miss Veronica, and I'm going to talk to you about something really fun today for this week. It's our last week before we go into our February break. So I am giving time for the students in class to finish up any of the pet portraits that anybody didn't finish, and giving time for that. And then the other thing we're talking about this week is optical illusions. And optical illusions, if you're not familiar with that term, optical revolving around your eye, optical illusions, so it's kind of a trick of the eye. So when we talk about an optical illusion in terms of art, it can be something, maybe it's a flat piece of paper, but the way that the drawing looks, it looks like it's coming out of the paper. Maybe it looks like the paper is moving. Maybe you're looking at one picture and it kind of looks like another picture. It's just these illusions of our eye, these little tricks of our eyes. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples first, and then I'm going to give us an opportunity to create our own optical illusion on a piece of paper. Very simple. You're just going to need paper, a pencil. You can use a straight edge. A straight edge could be a ruler, or it could be an edge of a book, an edge of a magazine. It doesn't have to be perfect on a ruler. It could be something else that just has a flat surface that makes you a little bit easier to draw a line. Okay, so I'm going to start off by showing you some examples of our optical illusions. So this one is the first one that I wanted to show you guys. So when you first look at this, and we're all a little different, so we might see a different image when we first look at this, but I generally, my first glance, I see a vase. Kind of like you'd have some flowers coming out of the top here, this dark image at the center. All right, so you can see the vase looking at the center. But if you look at the negative space, so negative space just means the space around it, all this space around it here, it looks like two profiles, right? There's the nose, there's the mouth, there's the chin, forehead up here on both sides. Right? So that's that. It's kind of a trick of the eye. It could be a vase, but it can also look like it's two different profiles, and your eyes kind of fall back and forth between those two images. All right, so that's the first example I wanted to show you. The second one, this one's kind of funny. So this one, we can see, let me pull this up a little closer, make sure you can see it there. So we have the part of her hair, and the way the photographer lined it up, it looks like the part of her hair is going right out into that road. Actually, I think it's kind of a path in between the fields there, in between the crops. But it looks like the part of her hair keeps on going right out through that field. And they lined it up just right with the width of the part of her hair so that it looks like it's continuing and then vanishing off in the distance over there, right back at that vanishing point, like we've talked about before as well. All right, so that's another example. And then I had one more that I wanted to show you. Oops, put my computer down so you can see my face. So this one's kind of fun. And this is another one where your eye kind of flips back and forth between the two. So when you look at this, some of us might see a duck with the duck bill over here, right, in the eye, and the duck is facing that way. All right, but then others of us might see a bunny with the nose over here and the ears behind it. And the ears behind it there. All right, so your eyes kind of flip back and forth. A lot of times with these type of images, when I look at it, I'll see one thing the first time, but then my eyes start going back and forth between it, and your eyes kind of start to play tricks on you, and it's kind of fun to take a look at these. So if you look up optical illusions in your Google search, you can look up more. There's tons of different examples, and they're really fun to play around with. So what I want us to do this week is just start creating our own, and we can get more intricate with this as time goes on. If you have time this week and you want to get more intricate with it, you can, but we're gonna do sort of a basic optical illusion. So we have our piece of paper, right? Piece of paper, flat piece of paper. Obviously this isn't gonna be moving or bending, right? But then the optical illusion we're gonna create is this one here. Okay, so when we create this illusion, it's still a flat piece of paper, right? But it starts to look like the paper might be moving or bending, or maybe certain parts of it are bending in certain ways, right? So this is kind of a basic optical illusion that I'm going to show you how to make. And I'd like for you to make this week. You can do this a couple different ways, but I'm going to show you this basic layout. And then if you want, maybe you can move your center over a little bit. You can play with colors, but I'm going to show you the basic one here. Okay, So the first thing I want you to do with this is choose your center point, and we're just gonna make the lines. I want you to notice the lines. I didn't measure these, so they're a little different. They don't have to be perfect. You don't have to measure out the space of each one, but I did try to make them rather even, so that way you can see I have 2 of the green, right, coming up here, and then I have 2 coming off to the side, 2 bands that way, and then I have 2 bands that way. You can see they're a little different widths and the lines aren't perfect, but I did try to get those lines in place in a way that the number would be even, the number of lines I'm placing. So I'm gonna show you how I did that. And then within that, there's a lot of room for imperfection. This doesn't have to be a perfect measurement, okay? So, starting off, whoops, let me get my paper, and then I also need, sorry guys. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start off with my paper here, and I'm just gonna give myself a line right at the center, or a point right at the center, okay? Let me get my pencil. So I've got my point right at the center. I'm just making it a little circle. And I didn't measure the center, I just kind of eyeballed where the center of my paper is. And then I'm going to, as I showed you here, I'm gonna get these top 2 lines coming right off at the corners of my paper. So it's like I'm making a giant V. I'm gonna do it with you this week so that we make sure we kind of follow together, okay? So, and I am gonna use my ruler just because I have it handy, but you can use the edge of a book, or you can try to eyeball it there if you go quickly. Sometimes you can make it a pretty straight line there too. So I'm gonna give myself 1 line going right off the edge here. And I just drew it right off the edge. 1 line right off the edge, and then on the other corner, I'm gonna do the same thing. All right, boom, right off the edge. And I'm gonna do the same thing coming down in the opposite direction. I went just beneath that corner there. I'm gonna do the same thing right down here, right above this corner at the bottom. Okay, so same thing going the opposite direction, kind of like a V shape. And I'm not worried, once again, about it being perfect. I'm just worried about getting the number of lines right, because if I have the number of lines, if I have an extra line in there, that can make it look a little bit goofy. So I want the number of lines to be even. Okay, so this is where I'm looking right now. Now I'm gonna go ahead and divide these in 2, okay? So I'm gonna start with the line here, boom, boom, and I'll show you. Boom, and boom. All right, so now I have that top V divided. So it's like I have those first 2 bands, right, coming off. I'm gonna do the same thing on the flip side, and you can even, if your mind, this is kind of a cool exercise, I feel, because it kind of shows you a little bit how your mind is. Some of us are gonna wanna create every individual band going all the way around. Some of us like to keep it even. I actually like to keep it even. You might even wanna flip your paper so that you're always working on the top, and that's fine too. You can flip it so you're always working on the top and creating those lines in the same direction. So you can kind of see how your mind works. If you start to get frustrated, just take a moment, step up, take a walk, go to the bathroom, whatever you need, so that it's still fun. Because this is kind of just a fun assignment that I wanted to show you. Makes us kind of be excited about what we can do with optical illusions. All right, so I had those 2 V's, and then I divided it there. Same thing on the other side. Now the last thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and create my bands coming off this way. All right, so I need 2 lines dividing this section. 2 lines here, 2 lines here. And that's all I'm gonna think about when I do it. I'm not gonna worry about measuring. I'm just gonna have 1 line coming off the edge this way, and 1 line coming off the edge this way. There we go, okay? So I added these 2 lines like this. I'm gonna add these 2 lines coming off that way here. Boom, boom. All right, and that's my last little piece. Okay. All right. So now I've got all my lines. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is these curved lines. And I'm going to show you kind of the end result. Oops. All right, I'm going to show you kind of the end result there. So this is what it's going to look like at this stage. I find the easiest way to create this is I'm going to start with the curved line that is curving outward. I'll show you what I mean by that. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so when I'm drawing those lines, I'm curving them away from the center. Now this can get a little confusing, so I like to go ahead and map out my lines in the same direction first. So I'm going to skip one band, go to the next one, and do the same thing. Okay, so I skip one band, do the same thing on the next one. I'm going to skip over, do the same thing over here. Now I am trying to match these up at this point. Doesn't have to be perfect once again, but I am trying to get it generally same number of lines coming out. Okay, coming over to my next band, boom, 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 and boom. There we go. Now I'm going to do that all the way around. And then I'm going to come through and curve my lines the other way. So I'm going to show a couple of bands that way as well. I'm still going to connect. So see what I did there? I'm still connecting between those 2 points, but I'm sloping whoop, the other direction. All right, so I'm going to do that here too. Boom, boom, boom. And it's starting to come together there. I'll do the same thing over here just to see one more time. Sloping the other way. All right, now once I make my way all the way around, I end up with something like this, okay? Now once I have my outline, then I'm gonna come into the color. Now when I come into the color, it's nice to choose 2 colors that are kind of contrasting each other, that stand out against each other. Maybe orange and green, or blue and yellow, or purple and orange, all right? So you don't necessarily want to have like pink and red where they're kind of similar colors. If you want it to pop out more, you're going to want to choose 2 colors that are kind of in contrast. If you think of your color wheel, if you've ever seen a color wheel before, if you've used one with Mr. Joe before maybe, you see them kind of like on opposite sides of the color wheel. So red and green is a good option. Yellow blue is a good option. Purple orange is a good option. I used a green and kind of a reddish orange there. All right, so it doesn't have to be exactly those combinations, but colors like that stand out against each other, okay? And then the other thing I want you to notice, when I went through and I colored in my bands, I kept my bands at the color at the same length, or the same band. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't go, I have my color here and here as opposed to opposite. Right? If I were to have color here and color down here. That's how I did it. You can do this same optical illusion with the color in different squares, okay? So think about just keeping each band uniform, all right? And the way that I like to do that also is to go through and do all of one color first. That makes it a little easier for me to wrap my head around if I go through and do all of the orange, and then I go through and do all of the green, okay? And then one last little touch that I like to add on this is I went through, and you can see it really close there. I went through with my marker and I actually outlined in the green and the orange those lines that I did in pencil. I went through and I took green and I came all the way down, and then I took orange and I came all the way down. And that helps it to pop out a little bit more too. Okay, to feel like it's 3D, to feel like it's coming out at you, like it's moving. Okay? So this is a little something fun that I wanted to work on before we go on our break, and it's also something really fun that you can continue to work on. If you look up optical illusions, you can find more that you like that you can try to mimic on paper, and they can get really intricate. And if you have patience for them, if you like them, for some of us it feels kind of like a calming thing to do. You can put on some music, and you can work on more intricate ones and fill in the squares, and it can be a really kind of therapeutic thing to do also. It's kind of fun. All right, so I'd love to see what you guys create. I'd love to see if there's anything else that you find in optical illusions that you want to replicate as well. And let me know if you have any questions. Thank you guys. Have fun with this. Have a good week.